The public betas of iOS and iPadOS 27 are here. There's a lot of really nice quality of life improvements, a bunch of new features, and of course the new Siri. I'm gonna have my deep dive walkthroughs of the OS updates in the fall like I normally do. But for right now, I wanna highlight some key features that you may not know about that you should, especially if you're gonna be running the public betas. This video is sponsored by Surfshark. Let's start with an iOS specific feature that I'm really excited about. iOS now has extra large widgets. These take up the whole page of an iPhone screen. Extra large widgets are available for apps like reminders, calendars, photos, music, and more. Plus, third-party developers will be able to make their own extra large widgets as well. Last year, Apple added the ability to make the clock on the lock screen huge. Well, this year they gave you the ability to make it really small. Just go into the edit mode for the lock screen and you can shrink it down. In Settings, Sounds and Haptics, you can now set an independent volume for sounds and alarms. This is a great touch. On the iPad, if you use the window mode or stage manager, the app name now appears in the status bar. I love this. This way you can quickly identify which is the active app. You can access all of the menu bar controls of that app by either tapping on the name or hovering the cursor over the name. But my favorite touch is in the multitasking settings. You can actually set it up so that the menu bar options are always visible. I love this. It makes it a little more Mac-like, but it makes the menu bar just far more useful and you just kind of remember that it's there. On iPadOS, if you are editing the home screen, there is now undo and redo buttons. A feature I can finally check off my wish list. If you're using an iPad with an external monitor, you can get to the control center from the external monitor now. Finally! They just need to add Notification Center now, and then they can add clamshell mode. Last year, Apple introduced liquid glass to all of their platforms, including iOS and iPadOS, and some people liked it more than others, I think is a fair way of putting it. Liquid glass has been cleaned up quite a bit this year, and Apple did something I honestly didn't think they would do. They added a slider, so you can choose how liquidy or solid the glass is now. But the thing that I really like a lot is that it is a lot more legible. With things like notifications and stuff like that, it's a lot easier to read the text when you have multiple things on top of each other. Safari got some killer features. Apple Intelligence can now automatically organize your tabs by topic. I really like this feature as just kind of a way of keeping Safari organized. I found it does a good job of organizing the topics, but every once in a while there'll be something that it just doesn't quite put in the right category. So I'm hoping this gets tweaked over the beta period a bit. You can set up Safari now with a feature called Notify Me. This will check web pages based on how often you set it. I believe it's hourly, daily, or weekly, and it'll look for things like price changes or availability. Notify Me loads pages in the background, so you're not seeing this happen, but what will happen is when something changes, you will get a notification, so you can tap on it and go right to that web page. You can also now create your own Safari extensions by just describing them. Now, I've found in my tests that doing really complex extensions don't quite work, but if you're wanting an extension to say like extract the recipe from this website, you do a lot of recipes, it'll do a good job at that. But you're not going to be able to make anything like an ad blocker or something like that. That's a little too complex. Speaking of calendar, you can now do natural language input for calendar events. Just by describing what you want, you can add event times and locations, invitees, titles, all that stuff will be added right to the calendar event via natural language. So excited this is here. Existing events can even be modified by describing what you want to change. So you can say change the location, the time or date, you can make it a reoccurring event, whatever you want. And with visual intelligence, you can do things like importing multiple calendar events. So say you get an email with like conference information and it has a bunch of like times and dates and stuff like that with all these like conference talks. I've gotten a few of these. So what you do is you just take a screenshot and you can just have all of those events added right to your calendar. This video is sponsored by Surfshark. One thing I've been doing a lot more of is working outside of the house, whether I'm working at a coffee shop or I'm traveling and working out of a hotel. Whenever I'm using my device outside of my house, I'm always using Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN service that keeps you and your data safe. Now, this isn't some, well, I have nothing to hide, so I have nothing to lose lives kind of thing. At places like coffee shops and hotels and places with these open Wi-Fi networks, they can see your traffic. And when their networks get compromised and bad people get in, and trust me, their networks get compromised, those people can see your traffic. And this isn't some marketing line. I used to work in IT, and this is something we tested and, set up a lab to basically see how this is possible and how much data these people could get. And it's a lot. With Surfshark's VPN, your data is routed through secure servers, so nobody can see your traffic or information. And my favorite part about Surfshark is they use memory-only servers, so this means they can't keep logs. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't keep those logs. And keeping logs using a VPN just defeats the purpose. But having a VPN isn't just about security. It can be a handy tool for browsing the web, whether you want to see a streaming services library in another country or check price discriminations based on region. Like I said, I use Surfshark whenever I'm outside of my home. Start your 7-day free trial and get an extra 4 months of Surfshark VPN. Go to surfshark.com/lolly or use code lolly at checkout. My thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. The Notes app now finally supports copying and pasting Markdown, which, that's a big finally for me. There's now a new feature in Notes, and I think this might get me to try Notes again as my note-taking app, called Section Links. Now what this does is if you long press or right click on anything in a note, this could be a header or a paragraph or anything like that, and then select add link, there's now an option in there that says section link. And if you get this, you could get a link to that note, but specifically that section. So if you use this link, it'll jump right to that part in your note. So if you have really long notes and you want a specific section out of there, you can do that. That's really nice. In the Files app, it'll now give you suggestion to name files or folders based on the content. So if you have a document, say it's like your expense document for 2026, it'll suggest the name expense document 2026. Shortcuts got a ton of features. The big one is now describe a shortcut. And I think this is going to be big for a lot of people that are interested about shortcuts but don't know how things like if statements or lists or things like that, how that stuff works. The way this works is you just use natural language and you describe a shortcut. How I have found this works best is describe the results that you want. Don't try and prompt it like it's Claude and tell it the steps that it needs to do. Just tell it the results that you want and it'll figure out how to make a shortcut to get to those results. When shortcuts originally came out, the big thing that everyone wanted was a morning summary shortcut. So I just told it to make one of those and it nailed it. And then I did talk to it a little bit and refined it. I had it give me specific weather information. I had it format it in a more of a list format and use emojis to break up headers and things like that. But it did a great job and I never at any point had to go into the editor to modify this shortcut. Apple also updated the use model action as well. This can access the new Apple Intelligence and World Knowledge models as well, and they're pretty good. Like, it's pretty freaking good that this is built right into shortcuts that you could just prompt it with Apple's models. I've been playing around with this and I'm pretty happy. Automations got an overhaul as well. There's still a separate tab, but you no longer create these automations in a tab. They're now just standard shortcuts and automations are just actions now. This makes it a lot easier to make them, but more importantly, it makes it a lot easier to share them. You can now just describe a shortcut to build them. So what you could do is, hey, make a morning summary shortcut. I want you to run this every morning at 7 a.m. and it'll take care of that for you. There are new automation triggers, including leaving a specific location, taking a screenshot, receiving a notification from an app, and connecting to a keyboard. Now, for the iPad, the connecting to a keyboard automation is awesome. I've set it up so that when my iPad connects to the Magic Keyboard, or any keyboard really, it doesn't have to just be the Magic Keyboard, it could be a third-party keyboard, it turns on the window mode. When it disconnects from a keyboard, it turns off the window mode, it just goes into the single app mode. This really furthers my metaphor of the iPad being a transformer. There's also a bunch of new actions, including save data in shortcuts, so you can actually store content in shortcuts. You don't need a third-party app or do the notes hack or anything like that now. There's else if actions, and Apple also expanded the get what's on screen action to be a little more robust. In the past, that only ever really worked with Safari for me, but now it's been working with a lot more content. This is the biggest update to shortcuts in years. In fact, I'm going to make a whole dedicated video about shortcuts because there's stuff I'm not even covering in this video that I think you all should know about. Okay, so let's talk about the new Siri or Siri AI. So the first thing you need to know about Siri AI is that it needs to index your device to understand the way it works, to get personalized and to get, find your content and understand who you are, what you're doing, and if you're telling it to get specific stuff out of like notes or reminders or something like that. So it's going to index and it's going to take a long time. For me on my iPad Pro, it took 2 weeks to fully index. And you can see the process by going into settings and it'll be right there on the sidebar. Now, as far as the way the new Siri works, it's great at answering questions and doing light research. Its world knowledge is pretty robust and I've been happy with it. In fact, it's replaced my general use of like AI chatbots like Claude or ChatGPT. I've just been going to Siri AI now. It's so much more conversational and it supports back and forth. So you can just talk to it and be like, that's not exactly what I was looking for. Go more in this direction and it'll handle that. Whereas the old Siri definitely couldn't do that. What's nice about it is it's truly an assistant. So you can use it to create plans or give feedback on a document or just kind of ask it about something you're working on and it'll act like an assistant. It can search across your apps like notes, reminders, calendar, mail, messages, those kind of things. It's not an agent though, so it's not going to just go off and do things, but if the app supports app intents, and if the app supported app intents in the past, it now has to update to do a little bit more, so third-party apps will need to do a little bit more work to work with the new Siri, but it will be able to go in and get content and see personalized stuff and be able to add stuff to apps. That's really nice, but apps have to update to support it. And I suspect indie apps, small indie apps, they will do that, but I don't know if the big apps are going to. We'll see. It can also search your files and answer questions based on your files and content of your files as well. And the new Siri also sounds really good too. You can modify the pitch and the speed of how it sounds. I found the default one is okay. It's a little on the slow side, so I have sped it up a little bit, but it sounds really good and very natural. Spotlight has been completely rebuilt from the ground up. Like literally the only thing about Spotlight that is the same as the old Spotlight is the name. In the earlier betas, developer beta 1 and 2, it was really fast for me. I'm having some issues on beta 3 where it's a little bit slower for me, but that's just kind of normal beta life in the summer. I have a feeling it'll get faster, but I did want to point out right now, it is a little sluggish for me. But what I love about this is that Spotlight and Siri are unified. So if you want to search for a file, search for an app, you do that all right here. But if you want to ask a question, have it do some complex math, look information up, it's all in this bar, which is a suggestion I have had for years now that they should combine Spotlight and Type to Siri. Type to Siri is just Spotlight now. And the search is just a lot better. It's a lot more detailed now. It does a better job at ranking stuff. So a vast majority of the time, whatever I'm typing in, it's nailing whatever I'm wanting and it's pulling that document up. I also want to point out search is a lot better in the Photos and Mail app as well. It's so much faster in Mail. I have a pretty big Mail database and it's a lot faster than it used to be. On the iPhone and the iPad, you can just pull down from the center and you can get Spotlight. On the iPad, it has this killer animation that you can do. You can like move it around. Like so over the top, but perfect. I love it. Now, if you're trying to get to Notification Center, think of it like Control Center. So you swipe down on the right side to get Control Center, you swipe down in the middle to get Spotlight, and you swipe down on the left side to get Notification Center. And on the iPad, you can still do Command Space to bring up Spotlight as well. There's also now a Siri AI app. And what's nice about this is it shows all of your history. No matter how you're talking to Siri, it will show, if I'm just saying the trigger phrase and talking to it, it'll show all of that stuff right here in the app. Plus, it syncs. So if you're having conversations about a project or something that you're working on your Mac, but then you grab your iPad, all of that stuff will still be there. That is really nice. Again, it doesn't matter how you were talking to Siri, whether it was through the app, through Spotlight, or just, talking to it through the trigger phrase or holding down the side buttons. And Right with Siri has been kind of completely overhauled as well. If you have some text or something on screen, you can long press or right click on it, and there is now an Ask Siri option. And in here you can be like, hey, take a look at this. Spelling grammar check this. I'm pretty bad at grammar. I do a lot of run-on sentences or anything like that, and it'll take care of that for you. I do wish Apple would just add a proofread option that would take care of complex spelling and grammar checking. Now, spelling and grammar checking has also been overhauled, so it will do that as you type. But if you do things like long run-on sentences or something like that, it doesn't quite get that. So that's why I think there should be like an almost Grammarly level built right into the system version of proofread. I would love that. This way, if you make complex mistakes that the built-in proofreading system doesn't get, there's a way to kind of follow up and have that handle it. And lastly, there is a new dictation system. I really like this. I dictate a lot, especially messages, and it's very accurate. I don't have to add punctuation anymore. It just handles everything. I just talk and it takes my words and converts it into text. It does a really good job. So that's it. That is a preview at iOS and iPadOS 27. Again, the public betas are out now, so you can go and install this if that's something you want to. Have fun with it. These are some features you want to play with. I will be back in the fall with my detailed walkthrough with everything that's changed with the OSs. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a great day.